You know, my connection with Robert was through sweat lodges and fire ceremonies, and so I'd like to just do a quick calling of the directions to connect into that kind of interdimensional spiritual awareness. And you can do this in any way that you like, but I'm going to start to the east here. So to the east, to the rising sun, the new beginnings, yellow, orange, we greet you. We welcome you into our hearts. To the keepers of the south, grandmothers, green, rich fertility of summertime, we call you into our hearts. To the west, setting sun, times of change and transition, reds, blacks, we greet you, we call you into our heart. And to the north, the time of inner awareness, the white of winter, the deep time of underground and rebirth. We call you to be in our hearts. To Mother Earth and Father Sky, we connect with all of you in our hearts as we gather here to remember our dear brother Roberto, that we may mourn his loss and that we may ease his transition. It is good. Moshte. Aho. So, I have a couple of other quick offerings that I want to make. I'm not quite sure. I'm just trying to get my speaker view going here, and it's not really working because I've just got Anna. um, so, you know, I learned some things about Roberto when I went to his family memorial. It was on Zoom. I didn't go to the live event. But Roberto, his family that he grew up with was part of a evangelical Christian community. He was born in New Jersey, and then his family moved to Colorado to be part of this community. And the family memorial was held at the chapel of that community down in Westminster. And the piece that was ironic for me there is that the name of the community is the Pillar of Fire. And it was ironic that Roberto went off in a pillar of fire. He went off protecting his home. You know, that was the last he was seen. He did not evacuate as he was ordered to. He was last seen with a garden hose out in his driveway, trying to water things down to keep the fire from his house. So that was just, that in terms of those interesting life, soul ironies and connections of growing up as a pillar of fire and going out as a pillar of fire. And I know Roberto had great respect for the fire. He fire kept here. I've fire kept for him at sweat lodges, and that was really what inspired his heart, was being with the fire and being with the elements. So very curious, and those are kind of the main piece that I wanted to offer. And so let's move on. And it looks like Karen Marks wants to speak next. You want to go ahead?
Hello, can you hear me? Can you?
Yes.
I can't hear you, Paul.
Yes, we can hear you, but we can't see you. Is your video on?
I'm turn it on. It's not letting me turn it on.
Okay.
So.
Well, we can hear you.
Well. Okay. I just wanted to say that, so I played music with Chimani Mani Marimba Band and also with Abdul Doumbia. And Roberto came to most all of our performances and was just a familiar sight wherever music was. And he loved to dance, and he was so friendly and so kind, and liked to meet everybody. And it was just a delight to see him um, wherever there was music. And I enjoyed knowing him in that way. I too was watching the news and saw his house burning and tried calling him, and of course did not get an answer, but was really shocked that that somehow he didn't make it out. And was I've had kind of a hard time trying to imagine what could have happened that he didn't leave. But but I always found him to be a friend, and knew him for maybe, I don't know, 20 years or something. And he was a very dear person.
All right. Yes, he was that.
That's all I had to say.
All
Thank you.
right. Thank you, Karen. Nice to hear from you. I have Mary Ellen next in the lineup.
Thank you so much for organizing this, and hi, friends, and everything that Karen just said. Yes, and Karen, oh, now I see you. It's lovely to be able to gather in this virtual space. Hi. Hmm. Yes, I played in that same marimba band, and Roberto danced with so much joy, and he also attended our Dances of Universal Peace for many years in Boulder, and just yeah, I'll echo such a grounded, positive, very friendly, very open person, and deeply grieving with everyone who knew him, and appreciate this chance to gather and share and honor his life. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Um, that's all I'm seeing for people in the chat. Guy said he didn't want to speak. So, is there anyone who would like to offer something? A song or a memory, a sharing? There's David Fairman, please.
Hey there, I also saw Jane Yant raise her hand, so maybe she can go next.
Okay.
David Fairman here. I ran into Robert at all of the free music things around town that I also populated. And yes, what a kind man. We struck up a conversation just out of familiarity of encounter in those places. I let him know I was a body worker. He said, "Oh, I do body work too. Would you like to do a trade?" And I thought, what the heck? Let's do a trade. Turns out I don't remember if he had official training, but great intuition, really good hands, did really good body work. And so I was grateful for the opportunity to trade. I did not continue, because I'm a professional and I wanted to get work from my teachers or other people who were doing that, and whatever ideas I had in my head. But just really a beautiful touch and good innate sense about healing and touch on the body. So that was my interaction with Roberto, and I'm grateful for it. That's it.
Great. Thank you, David. Yeah, David is a wonderful body worker. um, so I have Jane up next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jane Yant, and this is Jeannie Rogers. We've lived in Boulder here in Lafayette for the last almost 40 years. and gone to the Rainbow Ranch for different events. I'm not much of a musician, but played with Greg Hansen, their drums and stuff a lot. And I knew Robert. I think we knew Robert for 35 years, and we sweated in his sweat lodge a lot of times. And in fact, we kind of wore it out, and Robert didn't like the way it was situated, so we rebuilt it together, which was really special, because Robert was actually a really good carpenter. And we also, when I was younger and really athletic, I rebuilt the roof of the Eldorado Hot Springs well house with Robert. I tore it off and he put it on, which it had a super steep pitch. And there were like people at the bottom, like, you want to climb with me? But anyway, I always appreciated, and then Robert did start calling himself Roberto kind of towards the end of when we were doing all those sweat lodges. He started really falling in love with salsa dancing, and that may be where some of you know him from. But we spent we had a lot of really wonderful potlucks and sweat lodges in Roberto's house. And he was so generous and so kind. And I always appreciated him because he was never really super judgmental about
calm and gentle and empathetic and kind of teaching tone in his voice. And I guess that's something that is in my family too, because we come from a lot of teachers, not preachers. But he always had something really, something to add to the conversation that was a different perspective and really got you thinking. And I appreciated that about him. And I was just stunned that of all the people in the community that I know in Boulder, many thousands of people, that it would be this one person that I know that gets killed in this fire. Like I'm just still I can't wrap my head around it. And that fire, I went over to his house and I went over to Marshall and the grounds, and I really want to figure out what happened that this icon of the community could get killed by this fire. And especially since he was so passionate about things like climate change. And I haven't sorted it out yet, but I did go see 12 Tribes. And 12 Tribes said they knew him, but I haven't talked to them enough about it. I don't think they're going to be really prosecuted. And this was a concern of Milt's when I spoke to him at length, because he didn't want to, pursue anything that Robert wouldn't want. And he's a very devoted younger brother, 7 years younger. And I really liked the 12 Tribes. So I was concerned about them being implicated. And they had, the guy I spoke to, Lev, said that they had a fire of a small shed on their property, but that wasn't the origin of the fire. It was further up, and it could have been anything. Right near that time, I heard about someone who came into their house and smelled something, really strong smell, but their husband had COVID and couldn't smell. So she kept looking and looking and saying, "Can't you smell that?" And then she found the smell, and it was something that had spontaneously combusted because there was a mirror that set off an ignition of a small fire. It was in the bathtub, so it was safe. But I also heard plutonium, which is at Rocky Flats, and with the heavy winds in all directions at one time or another, can spontaneously combust. It's called a pyrophytic agent if it's in the right size and the right conditions. So I don't know if we'll ever know, what originated this fire, but it was so strange because one house was out completely, one tree was out completely, and the next tree was fine. I think when you get that high of winds, it's just it's just really completely unpredictable what happens. And I think that's what Robert was in, what was in his frame of mind when that fire came. He probably felt that it could have started like right there, and if he put it out, he could have stopped it from transmitting to everyone else, because he was that kind of person. He cared about the bigger picture.
That's 4 minutes there. Thanks, Lynn. So
Sorry.
you got another minute 30 seconds if you want, but
Oh, that was all I have to say for now.
beautiful. Thank you, thank you. So I see Catherine waving. Do you want to speak?
Yeah, I just want to throw out, just in response to what you were saying, the latest news that was coming out this morning is they think it might have been a coal fire down in one of the mines that got popped up. And I can't speak to it well because I don't know about that, but that's the latest thing they're looking into. Apparently coal can burn down in those old mines forever. So I just wanted to throw that out. And as long as I have the voice, I really connect and feel heartful and brokenhearted about Roberto's passing as well in this way. It was such a shock. Tall guy with those long legs, he could sprint out of there. So kind of at a loss for words, but it hit me hard. And I'm from the music community as well, and didn't know him well, but knew him 20 years as well, for coming to events. And I'll say thanks for that. Yeah, bye.
Thank you. It looks like Jessica is next, and then Doug. I see you got on. That's good. I've got you after Jessica. Thanks.
Hi, thank you. I'm not turning the video on because pajamas, because I'm actually calling in from Israel. I knew Robert from a totally different context. Well, sorry, I moved here. I had lived in Boulder for almost 30 years, and I moved here 3 years ago. So I knew Robert from a completely different context, which was city council meetings. And hi, Lynn. We were always on the same side on environmental and animal issues. And one of the last things he came to testify at, I was at, had to do with, oh God, what is the name of that field now? On for 3 years, I can't remember it. We were trying to stop a bunch of construction in one of the last remaining wetlands in the Boulder area. And so we knew each other from that. We were on completely opposite sides on other issues, on political issues, on geopolitical issues. We butted heads repeatedly, but he was just always so polite and friendly and kind with someone who didn't agree with him on a lot of things. And I would run into him hiking. The last time I saw him was probably on the South Boulder Creek Trail. And he was just always so nice. And I actually knew the evangelical story. He must have told me that because we talked about, my move and so that came up. And so I actually knew that. That didn't surprise me at all when you mentioned that. Anyway, the fires made the news here. My neighborhood was evacuated. I have another friend who lost his home. I was just absolutely horrified to realize, as Lynn said, that I knew, you know, one of the, I don't know if he's the only person who was killed. Yeah, I was really sad because he was such a lovely, lovely guy. So putting this together, and I will end there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, thank you. Doug Dupler, there you are.
Thanks everyone for being here. Yeah, I just really agree with all the statements of Robert's positive attributes. You know, just that warmth and kind-heartedness. I had two good conversations with Roberto this year, actually, one at a solstice gathering at Paul's place, and then I was just driving along Marshall Road this fall, and he had said to drop by sometime. So I dropped by and we ended up just having a cup of tea in his backyard there. And that was a really nice, we went for a walk and he showed me around his place. And he has kept the area where he did the sweat lodge. And when we went up to look at the sweat lodge, he was still just very carefully protecting the prayers there, you know, and I just remember that. Yeah, it really disturbed me. And, you know, I was really afraid when I heard about the fire, and then I knew Roberto lived down there. And then I knew that he wasn't answering texts or phone calls and emails with others. And yeah, the worst news did pass. It did come to pass, and definitely felt some grief and sadness about that. And a little bit of shock too. I mean, maybe not just a little bit. Yeah, he as far as his place goes, you couldn't really see west there, like from, you know, around where you would be standing or just being on that piece of land. You couldn't really see west very far at all, the way it was situated in there. So I suspect that he couldn't see a bigger fire coming. And then with those winds being that high, you know, it just must have come very fast too. And I didn't know that he was, I heard someone else say that he was sitting there with a garden hose trying to wet the place down. But yeah, I suspect he couldn't see the horizon to know when to get out of there. That's my take on it. But of course, I don't know exactly what happened. Roberto had several years, I don't know if you all knew, but he had fallen doing construction and he broke his neck. And he had told me about that. And that had set him behind a little bit on things, including his place. I just remember him saying that as we talked today. So he was still saying he had a lot of plans and wanted to fix the place up and everything. So sorry, I never had a chance to do that. But yeah, just blessings to Roberto and prayers and just gratitude.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Doug. And I believe Makan, did you raise your hand there, Makan?
Yes, I did. It's nice to see all of you.
Yeah.
And I knew Robert from Dance Home and many other musical events, and danced with him and spoke with him many times in the past. I haven't had a lot of contact lately, but I did hear that a fireman warned him about the fire. A neighbor reported that in some news thing. So he probably, my take on it is that he was in his house getting things out into his car, and the fire came very suddenly. And having been around fires like that, when they come fast with that kind of wind, you never know what's going to happen. And the smoke can put you down in a place where you can't move. It puts you to sleep. So I think that's probably what happened. Is he didn't realize it would happen so fast. And but yeah, it's really sad that we lost a community member that was that involved in climate change, because that's what we need to do now is work on that.
Beautiful. All right, I'm seeing some hands raised here. Thank you, Makan. I'm not sure if this is the right order, but Rhonda, you have your hand up?
I do. I'll lower it. Paul, I'd like to thank you, first of all, for organizing this and giving us a way to gather in, when it's a timely moment. And well, first to share, I met Robert, I think first either at Crystal Market, where I used to work back in the 80s. Yeah, hi, Lynn. Remember you there. And or at Sufi dancing, or maybe a Sufi event. And I've always felt like this, like Robert was kind of like the Om of the community, kind of the, how if you say Om, you can feel this background vibration that holds creation. And I've been grieving with the realization that the presence of, just having the sense of Robert always being here, because I was so used to getting some time with him, dancing at music events, at protests, shopping, hiking, just across the board over the years, and always being just kind of depending on this sense of presence that he always conveyed. He just I felt he had this way of looking not just at a person, but kind of into your heart and the soul, and making a connection. Just could be in silence and just feel the care that I just felt like he was, he pretty much marinated in love and care, and it was for all of life. And so I just want to express my gratitude for having known him in the three-dimensional realm and beyond, and be present with other community members in our, a sense of loss. And then I think I'll also share that he had come at least a couple of times to see one of my spiritual teachers in past years, and there are a number of us who knew him, and many who never met him. But we are doing a 40-day energy prayer circle offering. So from the time that he took flight in the flames to 40 days, we'll be offering globally. And there are people all over the world that are offering consciously as uplifting energy or Shakti to support Robert to freely take his journey. And I do feel that a gathering like this is a joy. I get, Robert was so, he's so loved to be in community. So I feel this, he's enjoying this from wherever he can. He's tuning in and feeling this love coming from his community with his own heart. So anyway,
Aho,
thank you. Aho, mitaku yasin.
Takuyasin, amatakuyasin. Oh, beautiful. We have Britt up next, and then Jean.
Hi, I'm Britt, and Paul, I also want to thank you so much because whenever that was, went to the memorial not knowing that it was just for family. So I got ready. I drove all the way out there and was turned away. So I really, really appreciate this because it gives a beautiful place to see his friends and for all of us to think about Roberto. And once again, I met Roberto in a completely different way than it sounds like any of you so far. I met him actually about 10 years ago on Match.com. And so we dated for a short period. I'm a single mom. And at the time I had a little girl who's now almost 17, but she was a little bit out of control because of trauma we'd experienced. And so I was always really kind of nervous about being around other people because there had been so much judgment because of all that had happened. And so she came up when she first met him, and he had a hat on his head sitting on his porch, and she went up, as she did at that time, she was really young, just went to grab the hat off his head. And I was just, oh no, what's going to happen? And being Roberto, it's just a perfect epitome of who he was, of course, with those long arms. He just took his hand and went like, you want my hat? Why aren't you just taking the hat? And he just turned it into this beautiful game. And I think I fell in love with him immediately. I'm like, this is so great. Like, he just made it easy. And he was just full of love. I mean, I don't think he had a mean bone in his body, but so I just knew him as someone who cared about nature and the wild and was just a very loving, sweet person. He brought her toys, as I've heard from other people. He did. And also I'd heard that, I don't know if this is true, but I'd read it somewhere that he had some of his family's documents, like he amassed a lot of history. And someone thought he might have gone back into his house to try to save some of the special family history that maybe, I don't know, he only had. But yeah, it's brokenhearted. Today, I chose this, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a very sparkly green stone. And it just reminds me of how I always felt like everyone's described, because he had those beautiful green eyes that just were intense. I mean, like someone said earlier, they don't look at you, they looked into you. And yeah, I mean, I almost felt a guilt because I think I was thinking of everyone I knew in Louisville Superior, and I'd called and checked with everyone, and it wasn't till later that I'd heard someone had died, and I was worried about the 91-year-old woman because my mom's older, and I thought, oh my God, if I'd lost my mom in the smoke, how horrible that would have been. But surely I don't know this gentleman. And then when I saw him, I just fell apart because I felt guilt that I was like, oh my God, he lives right there. Why didn't I was thinking Louisville in my brain. But I loved Roberto. I just thought, I mean, we only dated for a short period, but we met dancing and at Cafe Soleil and downtown, and I just loved being around him and how sweet he was, again, at a time that was so difficult for me with my daughter. And even in recent years, like we'd run into him at King Supers, and my daughter's older. I'm like, do you remember Roberto? she's like, I think so. I don't know. She goes, wow. Because he's a little older than me. She's like, he's old. I'm like, and she said, but hot. And I'm like, yeah. So, so just funny story. But anyway, just thank you. I really appreciate the chance to be here, because it just, I don't know if I was burned in a former life or what, but I appreciate the gentleman who said maybe the smoke made him fall asleep, because to me, that would just be the worst way to go. So I pray that he didn't suffer, because he was just such a sweet and gentle and kind person. So thank you for hearing me and giving this opportunity to be here and grieve together in community. And I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brett.
Thank you. Yeah, sweet, sweet. Jean, you're up next.
It's you. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeannie Rogers, and I'm glad I could come and be in community with you all to talk about the way Robert touched each one of us in his own way. He had that kind of heart. He had a big heart, and he could love a lot of people, and he did love a lot of people. And I suspect that we're seeing just a minute portion of the people that loved him back. Jane and I, we started sweating out at Robert's sweat lodge sometime in the early 90s, maybe late 89, 90s, but for sure from about 90 to 95, and then from 96 to about 98. So we sat in lodge with him a lot, and really we grew. He, Jane and I, and all the myriad of other people that came and went. I wasn't always at his lodges, nor was Jane. And he had sweat lodges quite a lot back in those days. But we all grew together spiritually. It was a spiritual experience in those sweat lodges. For me, in the beginning, it was like just trying to stay alive and handle the temperature. I was pretty physical about it. I remember several times just like laying down and like sucking air from the inside of the lodge, just trying to get a little coolness on my face. But that's, I learned to tolerate the heat, and the heat became my friend. And eventually the heat broke the repetitiveness of my blah, blah, blah. But we all have that, whatever that is, the human part of our mind that likes to make up stories and babble on endlessly, especially when we're suffering. And the heat made me suffer. And I understood that we were to suffer in there, and no whining. So I didn't. But then the heat became my friend, and certainly Robert and many of the people that I sweat with, we all connected. Because we sweat with Robert on a repetitive basis, I feel like other people came and went somewhat, but we got to know each other's heart. And that's what I mean about his big heart, his big, loving, expansive heart. And his spirituality was shamanic, I feel, in nature, and with a strong bent towards Native American spirituality at the time. And he loved the earth, and he was a steward of that land that he lived on. And he would let you know in no uncertain terms if you stepped off the path. He would say, please don't step off the path. You're making another path and it kills the wild grass. And he was adamant about it. I have to say, but I told Jane that first night when we couldn't get a hold of Robert that he probably perished because there was no scenario in my mind based on the Robert I knew that he would ever leave this land. He was that kind of warrior. He just would not have. And he was a calculated warrior. Based on his calculations, he had time to get out. By damn, he was gonna make a stand right there to do what he could. And I know that we all, each and every one of us, think in our minds, at least I expect we all do, out of our humanness, how awful it would be to burn up. And I share that horrific scenario, but we all think it. And we'd all like to think that he did not burn up. And I pray that he didn't. I pray that, like our friend that spoke earlier, who seemed to know a little bit about fire, that maybe, and I pray this is true, that, the smoke just took him. But we'll never know. Well, we might know because, he's, his spirit is able to visit each and every one of us. We might know, some of us, I don't know. I just feel like he was a steward of that land. And
one more minute.
So the other thing I would say is I love listening to KGNU, and there was very few times that I'd listen to KGNU, but Robert would be calling in and having something to say, and I always liked hearing his voice. And down through the years, we just kind of grew apart, like people do, but there was always that connection. The last time I seen him, he came walking up, and he was drop dead gorgeous, handsome, in his cowboy hat and his cowboy boots and his Levi jeans, leather jacket, beautiful, beautiful. I said, wow, man, what are you doing here? And he said, hi, Jeannie. And we hugged each other and we talked for a little bit. He told me he was on the way to a dance. I said, what, you got a hot date or something? He said, no, I'm going dancing. You want to come? And I said, oh, I was doing something. I don't know what I was doing. But anyway, we parted that way. And that's been a few years back. I'm going to say 5 at least. He loved fire. It's ironical that he passed that way, but I don't know. I guess that's the way it came down, and he probably wouldn't have changed it.
Great.
He was definitely good. And so, a feather,
Aho.
I don't know.
Thank you, Jean.
Consciousness. Thank you.
Aho. Thank you.
Atakaweo Yasin.
Kim Mcmillan is up next. And then Christopher.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Mcmillan. I'm in Eastern Washington, but I lived in Louisville and Lafayette for 20 years. And I knew Robert through the completely different context with the Baha'i community. He's a member of the Baha'i faith. Maybe somebody remembers this. I met him in late 1980s when I moved to Louisville. And I just have this indelible memory of all the things, the qualities everyone's talking about. And the one thing that I remember the most is just what I think Jane was saying. He's a pretty man, very handsome, very hot, and very balanced, and very much filled with spirit and life. And I have not laid eyes on him for probably 15 or 20 years. But even my memory of him is so strong. I just couldn't not participate in remembering him. So here I'm in Eastern Washington. We heard about the fires, and and one of the first things that happened was just watching the news feed with Channel 4. The first reports that came through were the fire had started at Terryville and Marshall Road, and I knew he was in trouble at that moment. And then the Baha'i community, of course, was trying to contact him like all the other communities he's involved in. And then heard later what had happened. But I'm so happy to be here to hear everybody's comments, because there's so many things I forgot about him. And one was that he was involved in the Native American community. And I do remember that he had a sweat lodge, and that was very important to him. And I have a background with that because I have two brothers who were Native American that my parents adopted. And so I know, and I've been involved in some of that in the past. But the one thing I didn't remember or didn't know about him was that he was involved in dancing and music. I do remember he did the Dances of Universal Peace because I was involved in that community while I lived there. But, one of the things that in the Baha'i faith was just really about the oneness of humanity and to love everybody, no matter who you were, no matter where you came from, no matter, what color you were, that your house in your heart is always open to anybody. And he lived it. That was what's so lovely about hearing from everyone, is that he lived it. And that's what being a Baha'i really means, is that you live the life that he lived. So anyway, I'm so happy to see everyone too. But thank you for allowing me to speak. And
Beautiful.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Christopher.
Yeah, hey everybody. So I think I knew Robert for about 10 years when I first moved back to Boulder. Um, and I didn't see him very often, but I'd see him about once a year, just, walking somewhere, and it's like, hey, and, we had a couple of good discussions, but I just remember him always being so cordial and positive. So as I've been listening to everybody share here. I've been just creating some music that I hope embodies his spirit. So I'm just going to play that for you all.
Thank you, Christopher. Lovely.
Thanks.
All right. I have Catherine up next.
All right. Hello, everyone. And to Kim and Marcia, special hello. I'm mentally waving at you, Kim. Yes, I also knew Robert through the Baha'i faith, and we used to go to activities together with other people, and did some social things. And it's really touching to hear all of your comments about him. I think many of you knew him far better than I did. We haven't been in touch for the past, I don't know, 15 years or so. But before then, I knew Robert as a kind and fun-loving person who really cared about his spiritual quest. And he's a memorable person. I used to drive by his house on my way to Superior 2 or 3 times a week. So he was in my thoughts, and I was deeply affected by his passing. So thank you for this opportunity to think of him and remember him. I'd like to offer a short prayer. In the Baha'i faith, we do believe that our souls move on to another world, a world of the spirit. And I firmly believe that Robert is there and will be continuing his advocacy work for the environment and for people, and maybe even for dance from the next world. So this is a prayer for the departed. Oh my God, O thou forgiver of sins, bestower of gifts, dispeller of afflictions. Verily, I beseech thee to forgive the sins of such as have abandoned the physical garment and have ascended to the spiritual world. O my Lord, purify them from trespasses, dispel their sorrows, and change their darkness into light. Cause them to enter the garden of happiness, cleanse them with the most pure water, and grant them to behold thy splendors on the loftiest mount.
Hmm.
And that is a prayer from the Baha'i Faith. Thank you for letting me share that.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. All right. It looks like Mr. Cameron wants to say something.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Rolling down the Roberto Road, might meet a pretty woman or a friendly guy. Rolling down the Roberto Road. Yeah, maybe a pretty woman or a friendly guy. And when I meet them, I might have a friend for life. You know, when I found out through Paul's website that it was Roberto that was gone, I opened up some video archives of some of our music shows, you know, playing our Middle Eastern music over the years, and it only took me 5 minutes to locate a clip that showed him dancing happily in the crowd. So I cut that out and put it up on the Facebook page, and a lot of people got to see his smiling face.
Right.
Dancing away. So here we are, all doing our dance. Starts in the earth and heads up to the sky.
Beautiful. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you. Thank you. Oh. Anyone else? I don't have any other notes here of anyone who wants to speak. Anyone want to pop in here? Marcia, you have your hand up, and Linda. So let's do Marcia and then Linda.
I think it's good. I'm the other Baha'i on this. I cannot wait to get to the next world and just dance with him. You know, it will be interesting to see what he learned out of all this, because that's what we're here to do, is to learn. And it is wonderful to see the diversity in which he celebrated life. And that's the other thing we're here to do is, you know, each one of us is related. Hi, guys. And yeah, it makes the next world look a little more interesting, doesn't it? Just knowing he's there. So thank you again for putting this on. And it's a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you. Thank you. Miss Linda, are you coming in from Hawaii?
I am.
Wow.
It's really good to see you guys.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry it's under this circumstance. And I have been grieving a lot. You know, I looked at my phone last night, just at some texts, you know, that I had with him. And I was fortunate because I came back in November and I got to see him on Thanksgiving at Unity Church. And we got to have, you know, a deeper connection than normal, some one-on-one time. And I've probably known him for over 30 years, you know, like I moved to Boulder in the late 80s. And I don't even have a memory of when I met him, but I was a member of Dances of Universal Peace. I saw him at Unity. I was the social director there for almost 5 years. and he was everywhere. You know, I've been often called the everywhere person when I lived in Boulder, and he was one of the everywhere guys. There were other guys that, you know, other people that were everywhere people, but he was everywhere. I saw him at dance home, at parties. I'd have parties, he'd come. And I did sit in on his memorial on Zoom. And I'm so glad I got to learn so much more about him. And I really see him as a pioneer for, you know, Colorado, for Boulder, as a spiritual leader, as a leader of love. He was here, his family moved here early, you know, they were ministers, and set up camp with love and community way before I even got to Boulder. You know, he grew up here pretty much, it sounds like, or came as a child. So, and his family's here. So I never made it out to his property, with regret. I never made it to a sweat lodge. But I sure had a lot of interactions over the year, and like you said, a beautiful inside and out, beautiful man. We're definitely here to learn, and I know he had things to learn, as we all do. I'm very sad to hear that he passed. I was shocked because I knew somebody was missing, but I knew he lived in that area, but it was like, I didn't find out until they released the coroner's report. I just had no idea people weren't able to get in touch with him. So it was just a shock for me. I've been very much crying a lot and grieving. Yeah, it's just very sad, you know. It's sad when you lose anybody you love, but when you lose somebody to such a tragic, I call it like an Armageddon that came to the area. I just don't understand what could have caused all that destruction. So anyway, I love you guys all. I haven't seen a lot of you. I'm hoping to come back to Boulder and spend more time. If you want to come visit, you can come visit me if you guys need, because this is a shock to everybody. And maybe you need to get out of town a little bit, get in touch, you know. So yeah, just love him, and his soul is eternal. So the love is always there. The form just changes, and there's a newness. And, you know, we're all gonna stay connected eternally. So anyway, thank you so much for doing this. And if anybody needs support around this, I can hold space, and I'd be happy to offer that to anybody that would like to have space held. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Linda. Nice to see you. Aloha. I don't have anybody else on the list, so is there anyone who wants to pop in and share something?
Did Christopher have his hand up?
He did. He played some music. Did he have more to share?
I'm good. I just wanted to share the music that came out. I actually love listening to people talk and playing music behind it. So it's just a very natural thing for me to do. But I don't know. I think it started like 15, 20 years ago with Peter Froh. I feel like when someone I know dies, there's this 3-week period where they transition, and the ability to communicate with them is very, very great during that period. In fact, I felt like when my father died, I communicated with him during that period much better than I ever did when he was alive. So I feel some calling to address people's transitions with music. And I've done that with a few people in our community, with Donna Sessler, and with Michael of Michael and Glenda. And so anyway, yeah, I just felt like that's how I wanted to contribute.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Christopher. And speaking of music, we have Nyarma up next. I was just thinking maybe Nyarma will share a song with us. Are you there, Nyarma? I don't see you. Your video is off. There he is. Hey, hello.
Hey, everybody. Wow. Thank you for organizing this, and thanks for showing up. I think it's important that we show up. Pleased to see old friends on the screen. Robert was one such to me. My first memory of Roberto was at Kick Studios when I had a party there. And I had bought a set of used speakers from the thrift store for the party. In the middle of the party, the speakers went kaput. And we managed to finish the party. And I was cleaning up at the end of the party, and I took the broken speakers and put them in the dumpster. And this gentleman came, is like, no, you can't do that. These are perfectly fine boxes. These are perfectly, and he jumped into the dumpster and brought them out, took them away. I was like, whoa, that's a different level of environmental conservation. He said, no, this can be reused. And then he went on to tell me how he did not believe in recycling, that things need to be reused. And since then, I have kept that on my mind. Things need to be reused. And subsequently, he just reached out to me and offered me a big piece of frozen salmon from Alaska and talked about Alaska. I was like, wow. Since then, I've been longing to go to Alaska for salmon. So last year, I went to Alaska. And he just is present in my life. He's been present for a long time, and he showed up for a lot of my events. He came to my house for a party with the biggest grilled salmon I'd ever seen. And since then, I mean, he was my introduction to salmon, to say. And then a friend of mine visited from Ghana and met a lot of people about 15 years ago. Up till today, the only person he would ask about was Robert. How is Robert? I said, I saw him there. I saw him at this show. I saw him here. And he kept asking. And after the fire, he reached out to ask me if anybody died or what. And I said, not that I know of. Then he asked me about Robert. And I'm like, whoa, Robert lives there. And so I got the news of his passing, and I communicated it to him that Robert was the only one, and he was in tears. That Robert touched him so much in the few days that he was here, and he kept asking of him up to today. And he wanted to join us today, but I don't think he's made it because it's late in Ghana. But Robert is real, Robert is authentic, and you wouldn't second guess what he was thinking. You knew who you were talking to because he was real. And I have always admired his authenticity, and I wish to grow up to be like him one day, like really, because he didn't mince his words, but he was so kind and loving that you didn't get pissed off, but he would tell you what he thought. And you didn't really get pissed off because he was kind. He would say it in a kind way. And I thought he was a teacher through his actions. And it's unfortunate he had to go this way. I pray that he didn't suffer, and I pray that he is at peace. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Niyama. Great to see you.
I would say this quickly. If this was a live event, I would have been singing.
You can still sing.
Damn COVID. I could sing, but the song I would sing is call and response, so I'm kind of out of business right now. But yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. And
So,
there's a
we can
there's
take
a
a reach.
message.
One day we'll get together and do it.
Yeah. Nyama, there's a message in the chat for you about getting salmon. So
What?
someone is giving you a new source for salmon. check the chat there.
Wow.
All right.
Thank you very
Niyama.
much.
We have Kelly up next. Go, Kelly.
Hi, thank you. I really appreciate you all doing this, and I didn't know Robert well, but he did have an impact on me. But I've known him a long time, and I've danced with him in all the contexts that are mentioned, pretty much, and I'm happy that I got to dance with him. And he once asked me on a date, and I said I declined because I had just gotten out of a relationship, and I wasn't really even thinking that way at that point. But I really enjoyed dancing with him, and I'd always be like, "Oh, there's Robert. I can dance with him." But I haven't been dancing for quite a few years now. But back in the days when I did, I really appreciated seeing him, and I would still see him around. In fact, I think I may have seen him the day of the fire, or if not that day, it was very recent to that. And so I feel really touched by that. And I was just so sad to see that it was him who had passed away in the fire. And I just had a lot of tears about the thought of how he might have passed. I don't know, how it was. I do hope that it wasn't too much suffering. And I just want to wish him many blessings on his journey. And I appreciate all of you for being here. Thank you for allowing me the space to share a little bit.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kelly. There's a note from Dave Weil in the chat saying he's not very photogenic, but he shared a little something there in text. I don't see any other hands up. Anyone else want to share? Okay. Oh, there's Jane and Jean again. Go for it.
Okay, here we go.
I really want to thank you for hosting this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Paul, is his name Paul?
Yeah, Paul.
Yep.
I can't see very well, but now I can. Thank you so much. The tenderness, express blessings, all blessings to everyone. And our brother Roberto is left his print on our heart, so we carry him with us. Aho.
Aho. Aho. I think we might have sat in the sweat lodge together at Roberto's place back in the late 90s.
I hope so.
Yeah. I see Sylvie coming on the screen. Do you want to say something, Sylvie? No, maybe not. Okay. Sylvie is muted.
Cameron has his hand up again.
Ah. Okay, Cameron, go for it.
Well, I just really have enjoyed feeling Roberto's spirit arising inside me as I listen to all of you share, all the different kinds of moments that you shared life with Roberto. This has been a deep awakening opportunity for him to relive some of his beautiful moments through all of us. It's wonderful. Thank yous going out to all of you. And, I think back, I know I knew him for at least 26 years. And there was a time when he was in a relationship that was rocky when I used to try and give him relationship advice. And he would invite me over to his house and I would hang out over there. And, he really was always inviting me to get closer and be in deeper friendship. Of course, mostly I just always saw him out there dancing when we were playing our Egyptian music, and he would be there early and he'd stay late, sometimes help load and unload stuff. And someone said he was really just a community spirit that was always there. So we all know that. And we'll always remember that eternal dance he was doing.
Oh. Well, I see
was
someone
wondering-
asking about singing. Oh, there's Kim.
I was wondering if we could sing with Nima. It is possible to do call response on Zoom.
Well, I've got a song you can all sing along with, and if Nyarma wants to come back and offer something, we can try that. Zoom is not good for singing together, but you can all sing independently. This is probably a song you all know. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Well, I looked over yonder, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. Oh, band full of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariots, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariots, coming for to carry me home. Well, if you get to heaven before I do, coming for to carry me home, tell my brother Robert that I'll be coming soon, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me So sending love, and may all those angels take you home, Brother Robert. Any final thoughts, closings, offerings, songs, poems? What we got in the chat here? Yeah, thank you. Happy to do it. Maybe in the summer we will have a big event with music, and we can get Cameron out there, getting everybody dancing around, and offering more prayers for Robert. Getting Yarma, get us all singing together. And but this seemed like a little something timely, that we're in that time frame now where we can still feel him and help him move on and release our own sadness and grief at his passing. And it's wonderful to remember him and all wonderful views, and the man, yeah, he was a big man. I never thought of him as hot, but glad to know.
Of course. Yeah.
Glad to know he was out there. Yeah.
I think the best thing we can do under the circumstances is to pray for his journey.
Mm-hmm.
That is the best we can do under the circumstances.
Well, Rhonda said 40 days. And from what I recall from the Buddhist tradition, isn't that a Sukhavati? Has anyone heard of
Well,
Sukhavati?
that's in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. That's also the time that one is in the bardo, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
Yes.
The in between.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, that's really good. You had this now, Paul, rather than just in the summer.
Yeah.
We helped
All
us.
right.
We have to help him.
Yeah. So yeah, let's just all take a moment collectively and weaving our hearts together and sending this beautiful pillar of light and love, appreciation, that Robert may find his way home. He may find peace. Oh.
We will carry on for him.
Yeah, I'm getting one more send-off song here. That, May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within guide your way home. Well, it's sweet of Robert to have brought us all together. I've seen some faces I haven't seen in a long time, and lovely to hear your voices and feel your hearts, and I'm sure Roberto would appreciate that. And any other final send-offs, offerings, thoughts, prayers, blessings?
My thought is that it's really interesting the way he died and what he stood for. Because I know for all the causes I've heard him speak about many years with city council and all, that climate change is something that he's a good advocate for. And it's this event that is definitely an extreme event that happened. And to me, it's so serendipitous that this happened and it ended him on, manifest anyway. And it compels me to use this event to promote the cause that I know he would have if he were here to speak up for it. And although we're all collective, it's true that he's not manifest collective anymore. So it compels me anyway to take up that cause.
Oh, beautiful, Lynn. Thank you, Lynn. All right, well, thank you all, and maybe if Roberto's working around in the etheric realms, he'll go and short circuit those people that pirated us earlier. And,
Yeah.
That was so weird.
Love to you all.
Yeah, many blessings all. And thank you for joining. And I hope we'll see you dancing and singing and sometime in the future. So.
And all the black people in the world.
I would like to come to a dance, but I don't know where they're held.
Well, at Double Rainbow Ranch, we'll do something in the summer. We do outdoor dances in the summer. So.
Okay.
You can join our Facebook group.
Okay, I would do that.
Double Rainbow Ranch.
I really love all you people. You're all in my heart now. What a wonderful gathering. Bless you.
We'll be doing
Thank you. Bye-bye.
To see so many people.
Bye.
Thanks for
Love you all.
recording.
Love to you all.
Thanks.
All right, I'm gonna sign off. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yes.